All right, welcome to The Explainer. So we're going to talk about a future that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. I'm talking robots doing all the work, cars that drive themselves, the whole nine yards. A world where the economy as we know it is completely rewritten. But here's the big question. Is this future a bright utopia, or are we heading for something a lot darker?
It really feels like we're standing at this massive fork in the road. Down one path, you've got this bright, optimistic solar punk future. Think Star Trek, right? But the other path? That's the gritty, Blade Runner-style cyberpunk reality. And right at the center of this choice is a single year, 26. That's the moment a lot of people are pointing to as the real inflection point. It's when capital, code, and carbon, yep, that's us, the physical stuff, are all expected to crash together and merge.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with what this great acceleration actually is, then we'll dive into Cathie Wood's massive trillion-dollar bet on this future. After that, we'll look at how Brett Adcock is literally building the bodies for AGI. Then we'll check out what everyone on the internet is saying about it, the network's verdict. And finally, we'll try to figure out what this all means for the future, what we're calling the abundance horizon.
So what are we even talking about here? Analysts are calling this period the Great Acceleration. And you've got to understand, this isn't just another buzzword or some minor tech trend. No, this is a massive tectonic shift. It's driven by this incredible convergence of AI, robotics, and energy storage all hitting their stride at the exact same time. And the promise? A change that could be even bigger than the Industrial Revolution. Seriously.
Okay, so for a shift this huge, you need some serious financial firepower, right? You need the fuel. And to understand that side of the story, you absolutely have to look at one of its biggest champions, Cathie Wood, the CEO of ARK Invest. She's the one laying out the massive, multi-trillion-dollar economic argument for why this revolution is not just possible, but inevitable.
So what's her big idea? Well, she uses this great analogy. She says the U.S. economy is like a coiled spring. For years, all this innovation has been happening under the surface, in all these different fields, just building up pressure, building up potential. And our argument is that now, with all these technologies converging at once, that spring is about to be released. And when it does, boom, an explosion of productivity and economic growth like we have never seen before.
And the absolute core of her thesis? It really comes down to autonomous taxi networks. She calls this the biggest AI project on Earth. So when she looks at a company, she doesn't just see a car company, she sees an AI company. And here's the key. Her whole argument is that this technology is going to completely flip the business model on its head. You go from the notoriously low-margin business of selling a car one time to a super high-margin software-as-a-service business with recurring revenue. Think Netflix, but for transportation. And that right there is how you get to revenue projections in the trillions, with a T.
So that brings us to the big number, the one that makes everyone's jaw drop. According to ARK's models, the total value of these innovation assets is set to explode from around $5 trillion in 2025 to $28 trillion by 2030. Just let that sink in for a second. That's more than a five-fold increase in just 5 years. The scale is just mind-boggling.
And this is where you see the ripple effect she's talking about. This isn't just about tech stocks getting a bump. No, her projection is that this boom is so powerful, it will accelerate global real GDP growth all the way up to 7.3%. I mean, that absolutely dwarfs the historic average we're used to. It's not just a sector-specific thing. It's a massive economic uplift for pretty much everyone.
So that's the big, bold, multi-trillion-dollar vision from the world of finance. But, a vision is just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet until someone actually builds the thing, right? You need the engineering to make it real. And that is where folks like Brett Adcock, the founder of Figure AI, enter the picture. If Cathie Wood is providing the financial why, Adcock is building the physical what.
Adcock's whole philosophy is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. He says, if AGI lives in a server, it is trapped. Intelligence needs a vessel. Think about it. An AI, no matter how smart, can't change a tire or stock a shelf if it's just code on a server. To actually impact the physical world, to do all the things that humans do, it needs a body, it needs a vessel. And for him, that vessel is a general-purpose humanoid robot.
And what's just nuts is the speed at which they're doing this. He calls it turbo velocity. Look at this timeline. They went from basically nothing, zero hardware, zero software, to a walking robot in 12 months. 1 year, and just 31 months in, they're already shipping their Figure 3 model. How? Well, he says it's because of their engineering culture. It's super flat. As he puts it, everybody CADs or codes. It's all builders, no bureaucracy, just pure, fast execution.
And I really want to stress this point. This is not some slick doctor demo video for investors. This is the real deal. People are calling this the iPhone moment for robotics, and for good reason. Figures robots are on the factory floor right now at a BMW manufacturing plant. They're working 10 hours a day, building cars integrated right into the production line. This is where the theory, the vision, the sci-fi dream crashes into physical reality.
But what does everyone else think about all this? I mean, as you can probably guess, when you have tech moving this fast, the public reaction is intense. The debate online is incredibly polarized. It's not just a discussion, it's an absolute battlefield of competing narratives.
You can see the two extremes so clearly in the online discourse. On one hand, you have people filled with awe, saying this is the ChatGPT moment for robotics, total game changer. But then, on the other hand, you have deep skepticism. You have people calling it all a scam, a hype charlatan, just burning through investor cash. It's this perfect split between revolutionary hype and cynical doubt.
And if you look at the two main figures here, you can see how their public perception is a total minefield. For Cathie Wood, you've got supporters who see her as a visionary, but then you jump on Reddit and critics are just ruthless, calling her a wealth destroyer because of her fund's recent performance. And it's the same for Adcock. His fans are hailing him as the new Elon, the next great builder. But then you go to the robotics subreddits and you've got experts picking apart his videos, questioning if the robots are really autonomous or if someone is just controlling them with a joystick off camera.
And this social media matrix really sums it all up, right? You see how each platform kind of becomes its own echo chamber. On Twitter, for Cathie Wood, it's just a constant war zone between the bulls who love her and the bears who hate her. But on Reddit, it's almost all negative. For Brett Adcock, it's a bit different. On YouTube, you get these deep dives from tech channels, but on TikTok, it's all about these viral clips, usually with some Gen Z humor and captions like, "We are cooked." It really shows you the whole spectrum of reactions.
So where does all this leave us? What's the big takeaway? Well, what you're seeing is this incredibly powerful feedback loop. You've got Cathie Wood's capital thesis on one side and Brett Adcock's engineering execution on the other. The money is funding the building, and the building is starting to prove that the financial vision might actually be right. They feed each other.
And it creates this fascinating duality. I mean, look at these two ideas side by side. On one hand, you have this almost spiritual sci-fi quest that Adcock talks about, the creation of a new species. It's awe-inspiring stuff. But then you have the cold, hard economic goal that makes it all possible, collapsing the cost of labor. The whole point is to get the cost of physical work down so low that it becomes a choice, not something you have to do to survive. So here's the bottom line. The convergence of ARK's financial thesis and Figure's hardware execution. It signals a genuine step change. This great acceleration is moving out of the realm of financial prediction. It's not just a PowerPoint deck or a white paper anymore. When you have robots actually working on a BMW assembly line, it's become an engineering reality. It's happening.
And that leaves us with one last really big question. Because if the great acceleration is no longer a prediction, but a reality in motion, then the question we have to ask ourselves isn't if this future is coming. It's what kind of future are we going to build with it? Are we heading for that bright, abundant solarpunk world, or the gritty, unequal cyberpunk one? Because the tools, they're being forged as we speak. The choice of what to build, that's on us.